GiraffeNeckMarc is one of the biggest MLB content creators in the world, and we're going to find out what it was like when his channel blew up.
That's crazy. I don't think I'm ever going to experience anything like that again.
Some crazy fan interactions.
You're really short. I'm like, hey, give me your phone back. Take that picture back. He's like, I'm 16. I'm taller than you. I'm like, great, dude. Not everybody got those genes.
The future of MLB content on YouTube and his channel.
There's definitely some big plans coming. I think at some point I really do want to either
potentially changing his name.
I would not be GiraffeNeckMarc, my channel.
And a crazy interaction with him and Mr. Beast.
I just ghosted him. I never answered him. So,
No.
I mean, I ghosted Mr. Beast.
And beware, you might hear a lot of
Ooh, that's a really good question. Good question. That's a good question. Let me think.
Now, first of all, I'm curious. Your neck. It seems like a normal sized neck. Where'd you get the nickname GiraffeNeckMarc?
So I used to make FIFA videos, and I was streaming on Twitch back in the day. And when I was a freshman in college, I was streaming on Twitch, had a ton of viewers at the time. And my roommate at the time came in and mooned the camera, so that account got banned. And then one of my friends, who I was just talking to you about before, from England, was watching and was always saying like I had a really long neck. I think I grew into my neck a little bit. I've added some weight and I think just grown up in terms of maturity level. So I think when I was about 40 pounds lighter, it looked a lot longer than it does right now.
Yeah, it's like the illusion. Like if you're skinny, you probably it looks like you got a longer neck, but it seems like normal neck.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm curious. What was it like for you growing up? You're from New Jersey, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you have siblings or like what were you kind of into growing up? I know you play a little bit of baseball and stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, only child, grew up in New Jersey, and really just loved like sports, but mostly baseball in general as a kid. So, in the summer and spring, it was baseball all the time. In the fall, I'd play basketball. In the winter, I'd play basketball. So I was just constantly surrounding myself with sports. But baseball was always the one that stuck out from the best that I was at, like in terms of performance, but also just like the draw that I had to the game from the start. And big reason for that being my dad being such a huge influence as to why I love baseball. He's a massive baseball fan. And, the first thing that we would ever do is play catch and, swing a wiffle ball bat around. So I definitely give a lot of credit to him for being such a big reason why I love baseball.
So yeah, you're big into sports growing up, baseball a lot. When were you interested in videos? Was that always kind of something you're interested in? Watch a lot of YouTube growing up or?
Yeah, so I remember like when YouTube first came out, and I remember like watching people on YouTube, and this is gonna sound crazy because like I would never watch this content ever now. But again, I guess I was like 12 or 11. But like watching YouTubers like Fred, which was like such a big thing at the time, and just like the random YouTube skits that would exist, I always thought were so fascinating and funny, and it was a really cool way to get entertainment that wasn't just on TV. I could search something up and find it. And then eventually, when I got to like high school, I was super into the idea of making videos. I took some TV production classes and learned some things about cameras and all that. And I was like, I think I can start to make videos. And then I started watching FIFA YouTube, which is so funny because I wasn't a soccer fan, really never played soccer in my life, but for some reason the FIFA videos stuck out to me. And seeing how well they performed and how funny they were and the experiences that those guys had to have because of, being a YouTuber and doing all that was something I was like, wow, I really want to give this a shot. I think I can make this work.
That's interesting. Yeah. So you would have had to do so you were in college and you were also doing YouTube at the same time. I imagine, I mean, that's kind of what I do. That'd be pretty difficult, right?
Yeah, no, I would say my college experience was very different because I created a business going into college my freshman year, and it did really well, like well enough to like pay for all my college and all that. And it was taking me away from classes. So my first semester, freshman year of college, I came home from winter break, had like a 1.2, 1.3 GPA. I was on academic probation. It was like, it was a problem, but in my eyes, it was like I can either make money today with my business, which was doing really well, or I can go to class and not make this money. And to me, I was like, the money's not always going to be there. Let's chase the money. I can always worry about the degree and grades later. Eventually got kicked out of business school and floated around at South Carolina for like about a year without a major before I found out that I was like, ooh, advertising makes a lot of sense. And that's really when my YouTube started to kick forward. And that's when it really started to take up more of my time, and the business became took a back seat, just wasn't around anymore. And it was just a combination of like, there's a lot of times where I had to make a decision of, am I going to make a YouTube video? Am I going to go out? Am I going to go to class today? And it was like, all right, well, I need to graduate because right now YouTube is not sustainable for me. It's not something that is my job. I need to make sure I have that ability to get a job when I graduate. And then sometimes it was like, hey, instead of going on Saturday, I'm going to grind out making this video because I wanted to make this thing work. So there was definitely a lot of juggling going on.
Yeah. So when did you realize you could go full time? Were you in college then, or is after?
Yeah, unbelievable timing. So in April of 2019, which was the month that I was going to graduate from South Carolina, my channel took off. It did unbelievably well. I had been getting job interviews at the time and basically trying to figure out where I was going to go next with my life. And I had a bunch of job offers lined up. And then a couple of videos took off, and I'm like, I'm going to do something crazy. And I'm going to call them and say, actually, I'm good. I'm going to do this YouTube thing full time. So yeah, I would say honestly, like right around the time I graduated, I realized I think I might have something here.
So at the time, did you have enough money to go full time, or was this like a huge leap? Like, didn't make sense from the outside?
I could have lived in South Carolina very comfortably on the money that I was making on YouTube at that time. But that was not something I wanted to do. I wanted to go back home. I eventually wanted to live in New York City. That was always a dream and a goal of mine, was to live in the city. So I knew that I could live at home for like 4 or 5 months and really give it a full go and see how crazy this thing could get. And then hopefully by the end of the year, make that decision whether or not that this was going to be something that's like move out of the house, live with my friends, be on my own, only doing YouTube.
Yeah, so that was 2019. That was your big year, right?
Yeah, that was the year that everything took off for me.
Yeah, what was that like?
Crazy. As someone who had been making YouTube videos since like 2012, I'd never experienced anything like it before. It all started to click for me, and it all started to make sense. It was like everyone always talks about like the secrets and this and that with YouTube, and truly there isn't a secret. It's just once I feel like you truly understand it and you get it, and once you get that understanding, it really feels a lot easier than it had in the past. And once you get momentum going on YouTube, it's just all about keeping that wave going. And luckily, because I had nothing else to do, I wasn't in college anymore. The timing was perfect where I could just focus every single day on what video was I going to make, what was my next big idea, how am I going to keep this momentum going. But it was a pretty unreal experience. I don't think I'm ever going to experience anything like that again in terms of, my social media or, baseball talking career.
So, what was it that clicked for you? Like you just kind of making videos for a long time and you finally realized this is the thing, or was some
So Mr. Beast went on the H3 podcast. I remember exactly the moment where it clicked because I was driving home from a Mets game in Atlanta to South Carolina. Just saw Jason Vargas give up like 10 runs the night before in one inning. He was absolutely terrible. And on the drive home, I'm like, you know what? Mr. Beast is on this podcast. Like, I've interacted with this guy in the past. He's doing really, really good stuff on YouTube. Let me see what he has to say. Like, maybe he has some info that's going to be useful to me on this 5-hour car ride home. So on the car ride home, listen to the podcast. He talked about similar stuff. Like, there is no secret with YouTube. He was like, at the end of the day, you have to make videos that people want to watch. It doesn't matter if you think it's a video that's good. It doesn't matter if you worked hard on it. It doesn't matter if you had the best camera, this or that. If it's not a video that people want to watch, it's going to perform poorly. And he goes, you have to look at what other people have done. You have to look at other niches. You have to look at other areas on YouTube, see what they've done. How can you apply that to your craft? How can you apply that to your video? Look at the videos that you click on. What did you notice? Why did you click on that video? He was like, you got to work on your titles and your thumbnails. Those are the most important thing in the world. That's basically like when you're walking by a window, ooh, I want to buy that. You're competing for people's attention. So how are you going to grab it? And then how long are you going to be able to keep it? Because you can get people to click, but if they don't stay for a while, YouTube's like, oh, that's a terrible video. We're not going to keep showing it to them. So there's that's like the secret. But at the end of the day, it's like, wait, that was so obvious. Yes, of course, YouTube would want videos that people want to watch.
So it was like right after that podcast you heard? It was like
yes. So I had that weekend, like on the drive back, that entire weekend, I was like, oh wow, like one of my videos is really starting to pop off. And it was a video that I just straight up saw from another NBA channel where it was
Mm.
best player from every jersey number. And I was like, okay, let's do this for baseball. I did it for baseball because I was like, wow, this is a video that, like, I like basketball, but I really had no reason to ever click this. It was recommended to me. I clicked it. Let me do it for baseball. It started to do well. And when I heard him say that on the podcast, like, oh my God, that was it. I was like, that's exactly what he's talking about. Videos that people want to watch.
Yeah. So I interviewed Robbie Hyde like in the fall at some point, and both of us said when we started making videos, you were the guy who kind of got us interested because you're like kind of one of the pioneers almost of MLB YouTube. But when you started, John Boy was probably around, or like was anybody around who inspired you to start?
Not baseball wise. I think John Boy was around, but I'll be perfectly honest. I had no idea who he was. He was so Yankees focused, and I so couldn't care less about the Yankees that I had literally no idea who he was for like the first 6 months of me even going full time on this thing. And that's not even meant to be a slight. Um, I really looked up to like FIFA YouTubers were my guys. So like KSI and Cal Freezy and guys like that were the guys that I saw making videos, and that's kind of what inspired me. But in terms of baseball stuff, there was really nothing. And I appreciate you saying, I was one of the pioneers, definitely one of the OGs for sure in the baseball YouTube world. But it was kind of a wild west because you couldn't really make baseball content because Major League Baseball is copyright claiming everything that you ever uploaded.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that a problem you had to deal with much, like having clips or whatever copyrighted?
I figured out ways around it pretty quickly. I feel like a lot of people at the start, like they were definitely cracking down on a lot of stuff, and there were times that my workarounds didn't work. But I was able to find ways pretty early on that they weren't able to, and then luckily, I've built a relationship with Major League Baseball, and they've just built relationship with content creators in general, and so much better with social media now, where they're a little more lax on what you can get away with and how you do it.
So, speaking of the Yankees, I know you like to hate on the Yankees in your predictions or whatever it is. Do you ever think that's bad for views? Like, will Yankees fans watch you?
I think there's definitely a world where I lose people.
Hmm.
And I think there are people that, I mean, I see it all the time. I'll click on tweets and I'm like, I can't see it. And I'm like, oh, I'm blocked. Like, I don't even know who you are. And you blocked me. That's interesting. So I think I definitely do alienate some people. But I think at the end of the day, those people were probably never going to watch my video anyway. I like to think that the vibe that I give off in my video is like, I'm making fun of the Yankees or the Phillies or the Braves or whatever it is. But like at the end of the day, like that's because I'm a Mets fan. It's not because I hate you. It's not because I hate like it's nothing personal. It's just like as a Mets fan growing up, I have to hate these teams. And I feel like that's a very real emotion and something that like a lot of times, especially in traditional media, you don't get to see that side of people. So I think it gives a little personality as well, but definitely, scare off some people for sure.
Yeah, like authenticity. That's kind of a big thing when it comes to stuff like that. Like, you're being authentic, hating on the Yankees. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's always been a huge thing for me is I'm like, I want to be as close to my true self on camera as like GiraffeNeckMarc as I would be as like Mark Luino.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so with predictions, like pretty much any predictions, you're gonna have like people saying this in the comments, uh, hate comments, whatever it is. Does the hate comments or tweets, whatever it is, does it ever get to you?
No, never. It's
Oh.
it's like I think sometimes you can find something to get me riled up in the moment, and it's like I'll argue with you back and forth. But outside of like that 2 to 5, 10 minute span where I'm arguing with you on Twitter and the YouTube comment section, it's not like I get away from my computer and I'm like this guy, or like it ever like weighs on me and I'm like, oh man, people are being so negative. I think I've always prided myself on being like mentally tough, and the like mean stuff that people say has never really bothered me. As like going back to like playing baseball days, it's like I wanted to win. I wanted to like compete. And in a way for me, like people being mad, I'm like, okay, it doesn't matter. Like I'm still out doing my thing. I'm doing well. If you're commenting, that means you watched. And that's really all I want you to do is just watch my videos at the end of the day. You don't have to agree with what I say.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I remember the first time I got any sort of like a mildly negative comment. I'm like, how can they say this? But yeah, I just got used to it. So,
It's
but
definitely a there's a learning curve because I think because I'd been doing YouTube for so long that like I had been conditioned to where I had so many mean comments on videos that had way less views, where I was like, oh my God, this video has 10,000 views and 20 people are being mean to me. Like, don't care. I used to have 20 people being mean to me on 100 views. Like, that's different.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So what motivates you to do YouTube? What do you enjoy about it the most?
Honestly, like one of the reasons why I started was just I was no longer playing baseball when I got to college, and I so desperately needed some sort of baseball outlet because I was so obsessed with it. And my friends at the time just weren't at the same level of understanding or wanting to talk about baseball like I was. So that's where it all started from. It was just like a need for like a kind of community around me. Now, with it being my full-time job, one of the motivations is I don't want to do any other job. I think I have the best job in the world. I'm super grateful and fortunate for where the position that I'm in, and obviously the people watching are a big reason why. And I really do like I get to wake up every day and I'm super happy. I get to take vacations. Like these, it's bragging, and I hate doing it. But these are also the things that motivate me to be like, don't fuck this up, keep doing it because you're doing a good job. You have a good thing going.
Yeah, for sure. So I feel like I remember watching a video of yours like years and years ago. It's like about your college baseball. Did you get injured at one point?
So I got hurt my senior year of high school. I like don't have a rotator cuff in my throwing arm, so it makes throwing pretty much impossible. I could have played like D3 baseball in New Jersey, but that was something I just simply had no interest in. Like I love the game and I love playing, but I knew that like I was never going to be a pro. Like it was very obvious as a 5'9" guy who was slow, didn't throw hard, and didn't hit bombs. Like there's just no real reason for anybody to ever have that interest. Thought I was a good baseball player, but I'm pretty content with the decision I made to not continue to play.
Yeah, so it's talked about a lot for YouTubers, but have you ever been burnt out from YouTube? And how do you deal with that if you have?
Yeah, definitely got burnt out. There's been maybe 2 or 3 times, and I would say like the 6 years I've been full time doing this. It's a weird feeling. I think it's really good to. I shouldn't say it's really good to get burnt out, but I think it's really good time to take breaks. It's really hard when you are in charge of your own stuff and you know that like your livelihood is like based around how many views you get and how many videos you're making. Like that can be stressful for people at times, and that had been stressful for me at times, not necessarily from a monetary standpoint, but from the idea of like I don't feel like I've had a day off. My brain hasn't been turned off in so long because baseball being such a big part of like me in general, even if I wasn't doing YouTube, I would still be I'd be a Twitter account on baseball talking about baseball as like, a Pete Alonso fan type thing.
Mhm.
So it's like at times it was just like, whoa, I need to take a step back, just like go out with some friends, go outside, like touch grass, do something else besides like baseball 24/7. And truthfully, you end up coming out of it so much better because you're just like, wow, like I probably needed a mental health break.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Um, One thing that I've heard a lot that helps with burnout is like having other people on your team, like having an editor or whatever. Are there other people on your team? Like I think you have an editor. Anyone else?
Yeah. I have a couple editors, and they do amazing work. I literally can't thank them enough because I hate editing video. I did it for a while, and as soon as I got the taste of what it's like to just record videos and send it off to someone and then give my feedback, I was like, oh my God, this is so much better. That definitely helps. It helps so much to have those guys around because if I had to edit, I'd be making half the content I am.
Yeah, yeah, I bet that'd be a major game changer. Just no editing, like saves tons of time, I bet.
Yeah, and it's really, really big, at least for me, from the mental side of like, I can really put all my effort into the video and then I can kind of just step away and be like, all right, they're going to edit for the next 3, 4 hours. I can clean up my apartment. I can go grocery shopping. Like, it's not things that sound profound or out of the ordinary by any means, but it is nice to just turn it off at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure. What would you say is the biggest misconception people have about your job, about being a YouTuber?
Ooh, I think I think besides the fact that like everyone's like, you're a YouTuber and you live in New York, like you can do that as a job. I think a lot of times people don't think that we're working.
Mm.
Um and it's going to sound crazy, but like being on Twitter is like part of the job, and like being on TikTok is part of the job. Like I use Twitter for fun, but there are many times where I'm looking at people's tweets and seeing why are they doing well, or if I'm on TikTok, even scrolling on there, like sometimes it's brainless and I'm watching, the Rizzler and Big AJ doing booms or whatever. I'm like, but there's other times where I'm like, "Ooh, that's a good TikTok. Like, how can I apply this to what I'm doing?" Like, the brain doesn't turn off. And then like even just like watching baseball, that's a huge part of what I do as a baseball content creator. I need to be watching games constantly. If there's baseball on TV, I'm trying to watch it. So I think while I may not be physically recording in front of the camera as much, I do sometimes work more than the average job would be in a given week. And it's every single day. There's no weekends off, and there's really no vacation time built in.
So do you just like work 7 days a week?
Yes and no. Like when things are going right, I'm happy to work every single day. And I'm happy to do a little bit here, a little bit there. Like technically, sure, I'm working every single day, but in terms of like being in front of the camera or like consciously working on videos, I try to keep it to like 4 or 5 heavy days a week of doing that.
So what are the future plans for your channel? Do you plan on making other channels or like Office Space or what is there?
Yeah, so there's definitely some big plans coming. I think at some point I really do want to either create some kind of like media company or like I don't want to say consulting because that sounds like shisty. Like I have this big secret plan, but I really do love like helping other YouTubers with what they've got. Like with Robbie, I he asked for my advice, I gave it to him. I like told him things that I think he does really well and things that he could work on and what he should. And I think it's worked out well for him and his channel. So that's stuff that I really like to do. And I want to make more content at the end of the day. Like I do love being on camera. I think it's really fun. I love making videos with my friends. I love doing these opportunities. I see things on YouTube where I'm like, damn, like all these golf channels popping up. I love playing golf. It would be so sick to do that. I can't do that. It's not going to happen. But that would be the ultimate goal is just being able to like have a little bit more like randomness while also still being like profitable and smart with everything that I'm doing.
Yeah, I think John Boy, he does something like that where he's like multiple creators hired, bunch of different channels. Would it be something like that you're interested in?
Yeah, I'd put myself more in like the in between of like John Boy and Barstool. Like there are things that both of them I think do extremely well, and there are things that I wouldn't do that they do. So I think that's what makes it unique from everybody's perspective whenever they're trying to come up and start these media companies or whatever you want to call them, conglomerates, is the differences that you could. And there's a ton of things that I know that I would want to do that these people haven't, and there's a ton of things where I'm like, wow. Like, I mean, John Boy's Warehouse games fucking smack. Like, they crush. He did an amazing job with that. That's a really cool thing that he was able to do. Barstool has like the live gambling stuff and they have the gambling streams. I'm like, that's really fun. But then there's stuff that I think that they miss out on where I'm like, how do you not see this? It's right in front of your face. I think the plan is to try and do something like that eventually, but still a long ways away. I still got so many things I want to do with my own singular channel right now.
Yeah, any hints?
I mean, I want to get back to uploading a lot more.
Mm.
The last couple of years I really haven't been as active as I had previously, just because of some stuff going on. But like that, I really love talking baseball. So like on the main channel, I know that I want to do more bigger, and I call them like banger videos, the ones that have the potential to blow up. I want to make another channel that's still going to be baseball related, where it's more just like talking, no editing, whatever I want to talk about for the day, 6, 7 to 10 minutes, nothing big. I want to do MLB The Show. There's a lot, but also I know that I've gotten burnt out before, and I don't want to get burnt out. So I got to make sure that I have all the facilities in place where this is like as smooth and streamlined as a process as possible.
Was that, yeah, that was like a year or two ago when you had that live channel, That's Baseball, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the one that would eventually turn into the just talk for like 8 minutes, no edits.
Yeah.
There's an amazing, the best sports YouTuber that has ever existed, King of the Fourth Quarter. He's like the guy to look at for everything that he's ever done, and he has like 7 channels that are all super successful. And like that's a guy that I look to where I'm like, how can I be like Kenny? He's a beast.
So the biggest baseball creators are like you got almost 300,000, Fuzzy's, I don't know, 400,000, and some other ones. So those are some big channels. But when you look at some other niches who have like millions and millions of subscribers, um, I'm just curious, like what do you think baseball YouTube needs to do to get to like that level where there's like millions?
I think Baseball Doesn't Exist has done the best job of this, and he has made baseball accessible to people who don't like care at all about the sport. I mean, the amount of times I've been on Twitch and I watch like I see XQC pull up a Baseball Doesn't Exist video, and I'm like, you're like he's a creature who doesn't give anything about baseball whatsoever. Like he just sits on his computer, plays video games all day, is like a React guy, but he's made videos that have reached him, and he's like, I gotta watch the new Baseball Doesn't Exist video. So I think that there are people like he does a great job of that. That's something that I have no interest in ever doing, is reaching that kind of level of audience. I mean, I want that many viewers, but I'm not going to make the video that's going to ever reach the people who don't even have any slight interest in baseball. For me, like, I think what the baseball community has done really well is everyone's figured out what they're really good at and they smash it home. Like Fuzzy does amazing new stuff. I do my rankings, my like analytical, but like also kind of like talking to a guy at the bar type content. John Boy does his recaps of what's going on. Foolish Baseball has like the insanely awesome nerdy baseball stuff that you watch. Like everybody has their own little niche that they fit into. And I think just as more and more people start to create content, that's where you're going to really start to see it grow.
For sure. Do you get recognized often?
At Mets games, yes. Like I wouldn't say I get recognized often, like in real life. The area that I live in, there are a ton of Mets fans just because I live close to Citi Field. So like that will happen every once in a while, like go out to a bar one night and stuff like that. But it's not like I'm walking down the street and everyone's like, "What's up, Mark?" Like it's mostly at baseball games, specifically Mets games.
Do you got any like weird fan interactions? Like, did anyone ever follow you home or anything?
No one's ever followed me home, but I remember like when my channel first started blowing up. I used to have like a red Dodge Challenger, and I was back home in New Jersey, and I was driving, and I was filling up my tires or something like that. And I got home and I checked Twitter, and someone was like, "Hey, were you just filling up your tires like here?" And I'm like, "Yo, like relax, dude. Like chill out. That's crazy." Or it was like, "I think I just drove by you. Were you on like Route 22?" And I was like, "Yes, I was driving on Route 22." So like things like that. My favorite one ever, I think, still is actually I'll give two ones. One guy met me and he was like, "I get a picture." He's like, "Hey," he goes, "Huh, you're really short." And I'm like, "Hey, give me your phone back. Take that picture back." He's like, "I'm 16. I'm taller than you." I'm like, "Great, dude. Not everybody got those genes."
Oh
I
man.
thought that was super funny. And then I had a dad and his son, and he was like, "Can you take a picture of my son?" His son was like 6 years old and was a big fan. And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh my God." Like I curse so much in my videos, especially then I used to curse a lot in my videos. He's like, "Yeah, I just let him watch when his mom isn't home. Like, don't worry about it. He loves baseball. He loves your channel." I'm
Oh,
like, "Ah, that's really cool."
Oh man. Yeah, I think like YouTube, you don't really realize how tall or short someone is until like
Yeah.
you see the size comparison because it's like you just see this top head when it's like this kind of style video. Um, did you say earlier on, did you say you talked to Mr. Beast before?
Oh yeah, I have. I have DMs with him from like 2017. It's bizarre. I was making so my website that I did for FIFA was like I recreated packs and sold them. So like you'd have a 100K pack on FIFA. EA didn't offer them all the time, so you'd come to my website to buy it, and I'd give you the stuff. So I was trying to do that with Counter Strike. I was trying to recreate cases for anybody who's played that game. That's the gun skins and knives and everything. So I was recreating that. I have no idea to this day how he found out that I was making this website. It was not public information. It was completely quiet. But he DM'd me out of the blue before obviously he blew up like crazy and was like, "Hey, are you making a Counter Strike site?" And we were supposed to have a Skype call, and I just ghosted him. I never answered him. So, I
No.
mean, I ghosted Mr. Beast.
No. Did so like you haven't talked to him since then?
No, never, never. Like the last DM is literally me being. He's like, "Let's talk on Skype later," and I said, "Okay," and that was it.
Why didn't you pick up the call?
Honestly, it was just one of those things where I was so focused on what I was doing at the time. And I think at the time it was like my birthday weekend. So I think like I just went out, had a good time, forgot that I was supposed to talk to him. And then there was a major scandal that happened in the Counter Strike world that killed my website. So I was like, well, this dream's done. So
Yeah, that's a wild story. I would
crazy.
not have
Yeah.
expected that. I'll finish up here. I got a couple rapid fire questions, I guess you could call them.
Sure.
Who is your most famous subscriber or contact?
Ooh, most famous subscriber or contact. That's a really good question. I think like rapid fire, I'll say I know Jeff McNeil, like has watched my videos and followed me. Actually, you know what? Jazz Chisholm. I think Jazz might be more famous than Jeff.
That's cool. Yeah. So official podcast of the New York Mets is your podcast, Mets'd Up, right?
We used to be the official podcast. Last year we no longer were.
Oh no.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Um, did so you've met quite a few players, probably especially Mets players. Is there anyone, I guess that's kind of a similar question. Is there any player you've become the closest to?
Yeah, Jeff is definitely the player on the Mets that I've become the closest to. During COVID specifically, like he used to like FaceTime me, which was kind of funny to think about. He posted once that he needed help with setting up a stream, and I was like, "This is my chance. I know how to do this." So I replied instantly. People were vouching for me. Helped him set up the stream, and then like he had nothing to do during COVID as well, so he just like FaceTime like, "Yo, you want to play MLB The Show?" I'm like, "Yeah, all right," and like go hop on with him. Be like, "What are you doing? Where are you?" I'm like, we're out at a bar. He's like, "I wish I could join you guys." Like, super nice guy. And then when we did the podcast with the team, got to interview him like formally finally. And it's always funny, like, because the PR team was so worried because I was like, I'm friends with him. I'm like, I text him all the time. Like, we're friendly. Like, you don't have to go through like all the PR BS. Go talk to him. Like, I'll just go up to him like, Jeff, can we talk to you? So when he comes into like the area that we are, he's like, Mark, like daps me up or whatever. When he found out we were on the became the official podcast of the team, it was after he just had his first baby. So like I went up to him like, Jeff, congrats on baby. He's like, dude, congrats on being the podcast for the team. So he's definitely a guy I've been the closest with.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I guess when you become close to players on the team, it's kind of hard to criticize them on a podcast. How do you get around that?
I try not to make it personal. So I try not to be like Jeff. Like if he's been bad the last couple of years, he would tell you that, I think, to his face. And I think me saying it like that, like he's playing bad. I don't think he's a bad player. I don't think this guy sucks. I don't think he's not trying. I think that at the end of the day, it's just being very, very trying to keep that line of personal out of it. And I know that previously in videos that I've done, I got personal, and I think that's very much changed how I make my videos, how I talk about players now. There's still some guys that take shots at just because I don't really care. But like at the end of the day, through meeting these guys, you really do find out like they're really just normal guys. Like they're human beings. And as much as we like to analyze every little thing that they do, there's reasons that they do things. There's stuff that goes on in their personal lives or at home or whatever it is that could be affecting their play. Like you could cut these guys a break and just be like, hey, he's having a rough week. I don't think he's a good player, but I don't think he's like dog shit shouldn't be on a baseball team kind of thing.
So what would you do if it wasn't YouTube?
I'd be in advertising right now. So I got my degree in advertising. I was on the creative side. And before I guess turning down those job offers, I was just going to be a part of the creative side of some ad agency, basically in Atlanta or somewhere down south.
Hmm, cool. What is your most controversial baseball take? Don't want to get you canceled, but
No, my most controversial baseball take. That's a fun one. Uh, I'm trying to think. I don't know. Maybe this isn't controversial anymore as much as it used to be, but I love the Ghost Runner. I think the Ghost Runner in extra innings is like one of the best things that's happened to baseball, and I love the pitch clock. You know what my controversial take will be? This is really bad. I don't think Rob Manfred's done as bad of a job as everyone thinks he has. I think he's actually done a couple good things to the game. He's insane. He's made some crazy decisions that I don't agree with, but I think he's not doing as bad of a job as everyone makes it out to be.
Ghost Runner rule is pretty good, I'd say.
I think it's awesome. Like I
Yeah.
love, especially like from someone who's watching baseball all the time. I love that in the 10th inning, I can just be like, "Oh, this game is going to end." Like I can catch the game ending. It's like those 18 inning games were like fun in theory, but like as a baseball fan, you just watch 9 innings. You don't want to watch another 9 innings where there's no score. Like that's boring. That's not good for the sport. There's no added entertainment value to having that.
Yeah, casual fans probably don't want to watch 18 inning long
No.
games, no. What is your favorite video that didn't do as well as you wanted it?
Ooh, that's a good question. Let me think. I know that I did one a couple years, or yeah, I guess a couple years ago, where I tried to do another like travel video where I did 3 mystery jerseys, pick what stadiums and games I go to, and I did that in 3 days. That was definitely one that put a lot of time and money and effort into, and it just kind of fell flat. Any other one in particular? I mean, when I first right before my stuff blew up, I got to go to spring training and get inside clubhouses and do some vlogs. And granted, looking back at those videos, they were horrendous. They were so bad. But at the time, I thought they were like the greatest videos I had ever made. And I thought they were really cool. So those are definitely some that I wish I could go back and like redo if I had the opportunity.
Yeah, I saw your stadium jersey box video. I watched it at the time, and I don't know what I'd do differently, but I don't think I would have understood the idea of it somehow with like the title or whatever it was at the
Yeah.
time.
No, that was one thing where I had to rush it out because like it was like sponsored as well, so I had to get it out for the sponsor. And it was one of those things where I'm like, if you probably gave me another week, I definitely would have changed the title and thumbnail because it wasn't like I look at it and I'm like, this isn't a banger by any means. I'm like, I think the video itself could have the content that makes it good. I was like, but title and thumbnail was never something that I was like, how are people not clicking on this?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how big like title and thumbnail is like almost pretty much equally as important as the actual content, which is pretty
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
you have a bad title and thumbnail, people just simply aren't going to watch.
What is something people don't know about you?
Ooh, something that people don't know about me. That's a really good question. Honestly, maybe this is a weird one, but like I love cooking. Like I'm Greek and Italian, and like I think one of the things that I wish I did more of because every time that I do it, I really enjoy it. Like I love cooking, so I love trying a new recipe and challenging myself to like make something that I haven't before. I think it's a really satisfying experience.
So a Giraffe Neck Cooks channel coming?
Dude, I wish I could do a cooking channel. That's like half of my YouTube subscriptions are just people who are cooking on YouTube. That's content that I absolutely love.
Yeah, I feel like if you're really good at cooking in general, like making shorts, you just cut those things up, add
Add
music.
Oh,
music.
so good.
Yeah, that'd be pretty fun. Yeah, last question I got here. If you were to restart your channel, what would you do differently?
Ooh, good question. I would cut out like the first 4 years of all the nonsense that I did, and I would just immediately start going for bangers. Like there were so many videos where I'm like, how could this ever do well? Like, why did you think that this very, very niche topic that wasn't even particularly interesting would ever be a video that people want to watch? I would not be GiraffeNeckMarc. My channel would
Oh,
just be Mark Luino. That's all it would be.
wow. You don't like the
Yeah.
name?
I don't dislike it. I think it'd be like crazy. Like I do think it's like fun branding, and everything like that. But I think there's definitely a lack of seriousness sometimes taken with me and my content because I have a name like GiraffeNeckMarc.
Mm. Yeah, I was kind of thinking about lately how like channels like Do Perfect, for example, like the name probably seemed really weird when people first heard it, but then it clicked and now it's like, oh yeah, it's Do Perfect. But it's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, no, I've even thought about it at times. I'm like, do I just drop GiraffeNeckMarc and like keep it only on like Twitter and Instagram? But I'm at this point where I'm like, if it hasn't hurt me yet, I'm probably gonna be all right. If someone doesn't like me because of my name, that's on them.
Now, if you want to see the craziest trades that almost happened, tap this.
Yeah. Sweet. Anyways, that's all I got. I'll just finish
Awesome.
recording real quick here.
Sure.
Recording stopped.